I'll take this time to talk about the long distance capability of this motorcycle. Engine wise, the motorcycle feels pretty stress free. The engine does not get fatigued. However, and you know, the foot pegs are very neutral, so slightly feet forward position. Handlebars are swept back, so you don't have to bend forward to reach the handlebar. So you don't have to bend forward to reach the handlebar. It all falls very much into place nicely, very nicely. But you know, the suspension I still feel is tuned slightly on the stiffer side, and the seat is slightly stiff too. So with a stiff suspension and a hard seat in about 150 odd kilometers, I was wishing it was, I started noticing it. Okay, it's not as if it became problematic or bothersome, but I could tell that I'd been in the saddle for a while. It's still better than having a very soft seat, because a soft seat would just after a point of time the foam would just sink, and it then would feel that, you know, you are sitting on the metal that's underneath that foam. So that's never a good feeling. So a hard seat over a soft seat any given day, but just that maybe, you know, 10-15% adjustment on the softer side, maybe that would work for somebody like me. Now, comfort is such a relative term. What is comfortable to me will probably not be comfortable to you, or at least not to the same degree. So again, you know, you guys should just, this is just my opinion, okay? It's not a fact, it's an opinion. It's what I feel. So maybe you guys might like it more, maybe you guys might like it even less. I just wish the suspension had a little bit more suppleness built into it. And a very strange thing, guys, so you know, when I took delivery of this motorcycle, I took it on Wednesday. Sunday morning, in order to check whether the suspension is really this hard or whether my tires are overinflated, because I did not really get a chance to check the tire pressure at the time of delivery. I went in for, you know, checking the tire pressure. The stock tire pressures on this motorcycle, it is 29 at the front and 33 at the rear if you are a solo rider. Okay, now if you ride with a pillion, the rear tire pressure is meant to be 36. However, when I went and got it checked, the tire pressure, Sunday morning, I took delivery Wednesday night. Sunday morning when I checked tire pressure, the front only had 21 psi and the rear only had 23 psi. Now again, I know for a fact that, you know, there are no punctures on the tires, so that is ruled out. Then the PDI of these motorcycles wasn't even done by the showroom people. The PDI of these motorcycles, the first lot which was delivered, was done by Honda executives, the Honda plant people. Okay, so I don't know where the miss is. Maybe usually Honda is very thorough. Most motorcyclists, motorcycling companies are very thorough in their PDI in the first lot. I don't know why, but the tire pressure was really low. So I got the tire pressure corrected, I got air filled in, and I thought that, you know, now that more air is in, it's probably going to feel even stiffer. That did not happen. That did not happen. Maybe I'm starting to get used to the suspension of this motorcycle, but I still feel that it's slightly on the stiffer side, slightly. Other than that, you know, it doesn't tire you really. It does not tire you. See, now the bumps that I just went over, it sends a bit of a jolt through the front suspension to my spine, to the overall body. The rear would send it to the spine really. Then another thing about highway cruising. So let's say you are in the fifth, okay, you're cruising in the fifth, because fifth is an overdrive gear on this motorcycle, you are cruising at about 75, 80 or so. You plan an overtake, okay? There's a car right here, and you want to overtake that car. In the fifth gear, you probably won't be able to. By the time you crack open the throttle, and you'll have it open fully, and by the time the motorcycle gets a move on, it'll be too late. So I'll try and see if I have that footage. I was trying to shoot an audio segment where you can hear the exhaust of the motorcycle, and there was a truck in front of me. So to get a better view, I wanted to overtake the truck. I was in the fifth. I tried, I could not in the fifth. I mean, I didn't completely whack the throttle open, but I think I was at a decent click, about 80. The truck was about 80, 85. I couldn't overtake the truck in fifth. So yeah, so if you want to, overtake anything on the highway, you will have to drop down a gear. Fourth seems good enough. Fourth is not a problem. Fourth seems good enough for your overtaking. Fifth, it's just, maybe fifth, they've just designed it for complete stress-free cruising and fuel economy. So fifth gear, it feels flat. It just feels flat. So here it's going. Let me just okay, so fifth. Okay, so let's see. You see, it just takes its own sweet time. Anyway, I suspect most people who will buy this motorcycle, at least initially, will be from cities, and they'd be using this motorcycle for city purposes, not as much as touring. So maybe that's okay. Maybe that's what Honda was going for in the first place, because at least by the strategy of Honda, they're not going to sell this motorcycle in tier 2, tier 3 cities anytime soon, at least not for the next 6 odd months. So it's like we're not going to directly hit the bullet, the Royal Enfield Classic. Let's just first create a little segment of our own where we entice the people into believing that for the city we've come up with a better product, which they have. For touring also, but convincing that guy who wants the bullet, the Royal Enfield, the thumb, the character, the legacy. Now CB, it has a legacy of its own. Nobody knows in India though. Like most people wouldn't know. This motorcycle, probably the CB series, which is CB city bike, is being built by 50s maybe, I don't know. So Honda's had this retro motorcycle for a long time. However, in India, this is just a completely new thing. Nobody knows about it. It's a ground up strategy. It's a ground up product. So yeah, anyway, I think I'm digressing. I was just talking about the highway manners of the motorcycle. On KMP, I was being hit by a lot of crosswinds, and then while going towards Palwal, while coming back, I was being hit by a lot of headwind. This motorcycle, it did not budge, so it stayed true on its line. Usually what happens is, when there's a lot of crosswind and you tend to try and overtake a big vehicle like a truck, so there's a little bit of an air vacuum when you're just next to it like this here, and as soon as you cross it, a gush of wind hits you. When that happens, usually you are thrown around on the motorcycle. Now that has happened to me on the Street Triple, that has happened to me on the Street Twin, that has also happened to me on the Royal Enfield Interceptor. Maybe the winds weren't all that strong today, but this motorcycle did not really lose its line. It was tracking dead straight. So, and also yeah, there's another factor to add to that. I wasn't as fast as those motorcycles. I was most times I was around 100 on this. Again, new bike running in, whatever bullshit, but on those motorcycles on KMP, I'm usually faster. My Interceptor, I'm at 150-ish. Street Twin, I used to be, I was more civil on the Street Twin. I used to be about 120, 130 on the Street Triple, again 150-ish, because holding that bike above 150 for a very long period of time is very strenuous, very strenuous. You get hit by a lot of wind blast. So either that motorcycle doesn't like the whole 150, 60, 70 genre on open highways. Either you're full clip or you hold back to about 130, 140. That's when it feels more comfortable. The reason why I say you'd be you know, happier going faster on it, because the closer you are to 180, 190, 200, and I don't recommend that. I've stopped riding like that. I don't do that anymore. Been a while. You know, you're completely crouched, so that headwind factor gets negated to a certain extent. Again, you know, I just digress, man. I don't know why I just start going into different tangents. But this motorcycle is a good tourer. Like, I think the biggest flaw, the Achilles heel of this motorcycle while touring, might just be the stiff suspension. That's what I feel. That's what I feel. And in 10 days, so guys, you know, a lot of you have been asking me to compare it to the Classic 350. I was trying to find myself a Classic 350. I couldn't. I don't know a lot of people who ride, you know, the single cylinder Royal Enfields. I did manage to get myself a Classic 500, but I'm not comparing it yet, because I don't see a reason to compare these two motorcycles straight away. I think if there needs to be a comparison, it needs to be with the upcoming Royal Enfield Meteor. That motorcycle is based on the Interceptor's engine. That is closer in terms of what this motorcycle performs. That should be, because, you know, it's a new platform, it's a new chassis, it's a new engine. Classic's a decade-old platform, so it's just not fair for me to compare this to the Classic and just say, oh, this is so much better. Of course it is. It has a 10-year, you know, advantage, and it'll be important to put this, and, you know, it'll be appropriate to pit this against the Meteor 350. And again, you know, the Meteor might have its own flaws. I can predict one thing. The one place where the Meteor might be better would be in the suspension. The suspension will be softer. I've ridden some Royal Enfields now to understand this, that their suspension tuning will be softer than this motorcycle. Again, you know, this is all speculation, but this is still an educated guess that I'm trying to make over here. That is where the Royal Enfield Meteor would come in handy. I'm not sure if the Meteor has you know, forward set foot pegs like the Thunderbird. I'm not too sure, but that might just be a slight factor as well when it comes to touring. I still think this will make for a better city motorcycle any given day. Any given day. So let me tell you the range, and then we can, you know, end this highway thing. So I've covered 674 kilometers on the motorcycle. Okay, so even after doing 165 odd kilometers, it still says the motorcycle can do 545 kilometers more. This is one aspect where this motorcycle will be unbeatable. Its range. You know, one can still live with a slightly lower fuel economy. Like, it doesn't matter if it's, you know, 35 or 32 or 30. It doesn't matter all that much if you have a large enough fuel tank. So your range should not get affected. So I would like to have, you know, a near 500, 550 kilometer range from my motorcycles. Again, you know, I would like to give you some perspective. I have a few motorcycles. I currently have 5 motorcycles. I'm gonna start with the range of all of them. Starting from the smallest motorcycle, I have a Yamaha R15 before, and it's completely modded to, you know, be ridden on the racetrack. But before all of that, when it was stock, that motorcycle could easily do 500 kilometers on a tank full of gas. Next biggest motorcycle. I just bought a Hero X Pulse. I bought it last to last Saturday. I've not been last to last Saturday. I've not been riding it. I only rode it once when I took it to the trail, and I've not been riding it because, you know, this came out and I just wanted to shoot videos on this one. The X Pulse, I'm not very sure about the fuel economy, but I think that will be close to 40 kilometers to a liter, coupled with a 13-liter fuel tank. We are again looking at a near 500 kilometer range. Now getting on to other motorcycles. I recently sold my KTM 390 Adventure and I bought the X Pulse for you know, trails. My KTM 390 Adventure has a 14 or a 14.5 liter fuel tank. It also easily does 450 kilometers on a tank full of petrol. That's good range as well. Now comes the tricky part. Okay, I have a Royal Enfield Interceptor that's completely modded. That motorcycle also does 200. A stock Interceptor does about 220 kilometers on a tank full of gas before you start looking for fuel. My motorcycle also does the same, near about the same, 210, 220. If you're slightly conservative in the way you ride it, it can also stretch up to 230, 240 before you really start hunting for fuel. Going on to something slightly bigger, my Triumph Street Triple. Now that also is probably one of the most customized street triples in the world. Now I've got some work done on the engine. It's running a full system exhaust. It's running Daytona headers coupled with SC Project GPM2 exhaust. But even then, if you ride that motorcycle conservatively, it can still give about 21-22 kilometers to a liter. A stock street triple gives a lot more, 25-ish if you're conservative with the Indian map on it. My street triple can cover about 240 to 280 kilometers on a tank full of gas. It has a 17-liter fuel tank. So do you see, now the Interceptor might have a better fuel economy, but because the Street Triple has a bigger tank, so there is more range over here, and that is what matters. So if we go slightly bigger, slightly higher, I sold my Triumph Street Twin, you know, when did I sell it? I think early this year I sold it after so I sold my Street Twin, and if I remember correctly, my Street Twin also used to do about 280-ish you know, kilometers on a tank full of gas. Now that motorcycle comes with a small tank, about 11 liters, but it had good fuel economy, so I could get that range, 280. And now talking about the big behemoth that I own, I have a Tiger 1200 XCX. That motorcycle comes with a 20-liter fuel tank, and the best fuel economy that you can get out of that motorcycle on a highway is about 20 kilometers per liter. So, you know, that motorcycle also has about 350, realistically 320 to 350 kilometer range before you start looking for fuel. So that is where this motorcycle trumps those motorcycles. Over 500 kilometers of fuel range. You don't need those frequent pit stops, even though I would recommend you to take a small 2-minute, 5-minute break every hour of riding, if you're doing long distance touring, that is. Man, I don't know where all of this gyan verbal diarrhea is coming from, but yeah, so I've given you I think I've given you more than enough on the motorcycle when it comes to highway touring, highway cruising. I did hit 130 kilometers on this motorcycle today, crouched, descending down a slope. Realistically, you'll hit 110, 115. Yeah, 110, 115. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. Don't think this is the end of the series. We have a few more to go. On this motorcycle. Alright, thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye bye.